Jam-packed show coming to y'all tonight. The Florida Gators drop the anchor on the Vanderbilt Commodores. They send LSU back to Baton Rouge with a big fat L. And Jon Sumrall completes his 2026 roster for the Florida Gators. Going to get to all that and more. We're also going to talk about baseball. We're going to talk a little bit of tennis. Ben Shelton in the Australian Open. Going to shout him out, wish him well as he gets his journey started in 2026. Before we get into any of that, though, welcome back to the In All Kinds of Weather Forecast. I am your host, Neil Shulman. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at All Kinds Weather. Joining me, as always, Adrian Perez at Gator Diamond Pod for his Gator stickball stuff. Also at ADNDEL for his other sports commentary on Twitter. Want to take a second to shout out our sponsor, 401k Generation, the wealth management company that helps you invest today for your future tomorrow. Their team of advisors is committed to providing guidance and education for your 401k plan and its participants. And they also offer a range of enrollment solutions tailored to meet the unique needs of your company's 401k plan. Whether it's savings for your child's college, investment advice, or even just your retirement, 401k Generation's team of advisors makes getting to know you their top priority. Their advisors will tailor a path to assist you in navigating life's financial milestones and reaching your financial goals. That's 401k Generation, building stronger futures, one generation at a time. For more information, please contact them, 866-998-5879, or visit their website at 401kgeneration.com. All right, Adrian, we have a lot to get to here. Let's start by just putting a bow on the portal cycle. We went through pretty much every single guy that Florida got or retained for the 2026 season that we had at that time. The last one of which was Kanye Clark, the cornerback from UCLA, which broke literally as we were recording that last show. So let's just start by finishing that off because we have a couple more pieces of news to get to right there. Number one, a guy that you kept shouting out throughout the season last year, Brian Taylor Jr. leaving for the transfer portal. Is that something that you think Florida is going to feel next year at all? Is that going to be a painful loss for the Gators, or are they going to be fine without him?
Well, he wasn't even eligible yet. So let's start there first. You know, he was still trying to appeal, so we don't know if he even would have a year of eligibility. But even if he did, you know, he's a depth piece, but nothing that I don't think the guy that they picked up from Southern Miss, and I'm not going to remember all these names, man. These names just come at you fast and heavy, man. But the kid from Ole Miss, Clinton, is it?
Southern Miss, you meant, and that's Mason Clinton.
Mason Clinton, there you go. A lot of schools, a lot of names. Nothing that I don't think he could give you the same type of production that Brian Taylor did. So, no, I think Brian Taylor moving on. It looks like if he gets a year of eligibility, I saw something, he might visit Tennessee. They're hurting for D-line depth. I mean, I don't think we know other people's rosters as well as we know ours, obviously. But there's some schools out there, some teams in the SEC that are hurting on the lines a lot worse than Florida. Trust me on that. So, so good luck to him. Hopefully he does get a year of eligibility and could play one more year, man. Wish the best for him.
Hope it's not Tennessee, though, even though Florida doesn't play them anymore, which is another weird dynamic to all this. You're talking about a guy like, for example, Trey Wilson going to LSU, and the instinctive revulsion that comes about a guy going from Florida to LSU kind of goes away when you realize, wait a second, we don't play them anymore every year. So we're not going to have to even face him next year. Mm-hmm. So it's not the same thing where the guy goes to another school in the SEC that you don't play every year. Like Florida's got their 3 permanent opponents in Georgia, Kentucky, South Carolina. And beyond that, there's a 50% chance you won't even see the guy on the other sideline next year, on the field, in the other colored jerseys the very next year. So that's a very strange dynamic that's going to take some time getting used to, for sure. We're going to be talking about defensive linemen a lot more in depth throughout the course of the show because Florida obviously is going to have to win games with its strength in the trenches because that's how everyone wins games these days in college football. But the case of Samu Tom Manu Pepe, I think, also just classically embodies college football in 2026 right now, where he commits to Florida. He goes to Colorado 48 hours later. That commitment doesn't even stick. I don't know why he even bothered to commit to Florida in the first place. Adrian, just real quick, same kind of question. Was that something that Florida's going to regret, or are they going to be just fine without him as well?
Regret's a very hard word, right? Because you don't know what you got in these guys, man. Let's be honest. It's only really a couple that you really know what you have in them, until you get them here and you watch them and you give them a couple practices and maybe in a couple games. But I did like this kid's size, man. No matter what, this kid had some good size. You can't teach that, okay? No matter who your coach is. So even though his production was non-existent, really, you wonder maybe, maybe there was circumstances because of that. Who knows? Maybe he didn't play because of grades. Maybe he was like a, quasi-suspended because of disciplinary issues. I'm just guessing here because he had no production pretty much at all. But his size is something that you would have liked to have, at least given a crack at it, right? If you're the coach. So I'm sure that the defensive line coach kind of misses that he's not going to have a chance to work with that guy. But like you said, the guy was committed for like 48 hours and then flipped his portal commitment. So nothing you can do about that, man.
Which is just, again, sign of the times. You didn't have him long enough to even know what you had in him. It is what it is. So a couple other pieces of portal news before we close out this long segment of which has now taken 2 shows for us to do. But Jacoby Jackson going to Ohio State, that kind of sucked. I really would have liked to have seen him stay at Florida. I totally get why he didn't. Florida did just fine at running back this portal cycle, not the least of which was they kept Jaden Baugh, but also going and getting Evan Pryor from Cincinnati and previously Ohio State. And then, of course, Montgomery coming over from ECU. So Florida's going to be just fine at running back. But I wish Jacoby Jackson well. I hope he does well there. I hope he stays healthy there. Not a whole lot else to say other than that. Again, it just sucks that we live in a world where you can't get too attached to these guys because there's a good chance they're just going to be heading on into the transfer portal before too much longer before you have a chance to really get attached to them. Adrian, any parting words for Jacoby before we move on from him?
He was hurt pretty much all of last year. You went into the season really looking forward to that 1-2 punch of Bog and Jacoby Jackson. So, he was injured. He was a walk-on to begin with. I always felt that he had some good talent. But, unfortunately, last year he couldn't get it going because of the injuries. Florida, like you said, man, they did good in the transfer portal there. I think they improved that room from last year. I think it got better. So as far as from a Florida Gator team perspective, I don't think that there's much of a loss there.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you on that. I'm gonna miss the angriness that he ran with. That was what always stuck out to me. He ran like someone just insulted his mom. Like he was always pissed off when he had the ball with him, which is a good thing. You love watching guys who run like that. But again, we got Ball back, we got Montgomery, we got Pryor. It's hard for me to really look at that and go, that's a huge loss. We're gonna miss him. We're gonna remember his hard, angry runs fondly. Doesn't really hurt the team that much. So couple of final pieces of portal news before we move on and put a bow on this. Receiver Jalen Lloyd, previously of Nebraska and Oklahoma State, committing to Florida since we did our last show. He has caught 19 passes for 494 yards. That is quite a yards per catch average that he's got there. He is now a Gator. Adrian, what do you make of that from 2 standpoints? Number one, the just 19 catches in 2 years. But then number 2, again, the yards per catch.
Yeah, for sure. Remember, Florida lost 5 receivers to the portal, okay? So you had to replace your depth. You had your starters, basically, your frontline guys in VB3 and in Dallas, and then you added to that with Singleton, obviously, to make a 3-headed monster there. But you still had to fill in the depth, which is what they did. So this kid brings you a certain variable to the party here, and that's his speed, obviously. Okay, It's a guy that you line up on the outside and just have him blow the top off of the defense, man. And, if you set something up good for him, it's a big play waiting to happen. So, he brings that to the table. It's a unique skill set when you have that type of speed. And it's a good get as far as I see it. It doesn't have, it's not going to be the production. Like if you were telling me that Florida was bringing this guy in to be wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2, yeah, I'll be pissed. I'll be like, what are we doing here? Right? But that's not the case. This guy's coming in as way down the pecking order depth piece. Plus, he's bringing in a unique skill set, which is his speed. So it's a good get.
Yeah, I mean, again, anytime you see that yards per catch average, even if it's only on a sample size of 19 catches, still makes me think, all right, there's something to work with here. I got to stop thinking about Billy Gonzalez because I know that he's not here anymore. But I was about to say that Billy Gonzalez is going to have a lot of fun working with him. Of course, now it's Marcus Davis as receivers coach of Florida who's going to get his chance to work with him. But, yeah, I mean, Florida has produced wide receivers like crazy over the last 20 years or so, 25, 30 years even or so. Maybe not all of them have become as great of pros as I would have thought. Maybe a couple of them didn't work out as well as I would have thought, but we have had a long line of very good, if not just outright great college wide receivers come through this program. So I would like to think that lineage can continue here. Of course, we have the two guys we kept, Dallas Wilson, Vernell Brown III, put a large premium on keeping those guys, and we did. So they'll be the ones leading the show, like you were alluding to.
This kid was also he was also a commit out of high school to the track team, by the way. The Lloyd kid, yeah. He was
good to know.
Out of high school.
Good to know. Okay, so there's another data point for your speed. Jordy Lowry, the last one we're going to get to here, the corner from East Carolina, formerly of West Carolina, then East Carolina. Now he's at Florida. That appears to put a bow on Florida's portal cycle haul. What do we think of him, Adrian?
Well, this kid comes from East Carolina, and he's got some production there, man. Well, first of all, he started out at Western Carolina, second team All-American FCS, okay, at Western Carolina. He's out of Bartow, Florida, so pretty much a local kid, kind of, just outside of Gainesville. And last year at ECU, he put up some production, Neil. I mean, he had 27 tackles, 23 solo, 2 tackles for losses, 4 pass breakups, 1 forced fumble.
And he recovered that fumble.
Yeah. So, the guy's got some production, a lot of playing time. That adds to the cornerback room. So I think there's a good pickup at this stage of the game. I think it's a good get.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's linear, like the NFL draft goes sequentially, like the top player on the board comes off the board with the first pick, the number 2 guy on the board comes off the second. It doesn't work like that. But typically it does follow somewhat of a similar pattern in that most of the top guys are off the board at this point in the portal cycle.
Sure.
Because most of the schools are going to have shelled out the money that they're going to shell out for next year's football team by this point. They're not going to be waiting around. They're going to want to have it locked in and done because they're going to want contracts signed, players enrolled in schools, signed, sealed, delivered, finished product. They're not going to want to let that be left to chance for we're well out of the portal cycle now, but the residual portal cycle, like the guys who still haven't officially made their minds up now. So here we are, January 21st, which is the day he committed, and he's still available. That, like you said, that's a really nice pickup for Florida. You rattled off his stats. I like the production. He comes from multiple previous schools where he played at. It wasn't like he had to go down to get some playing time. It wasn't like he went from ECU to Western Carolina just to play. No, he started at Western Carolina, was a stud there, moved up to East Carolina. Wouldn't say he was quite as dominant, but again, still had some stats, still had some nice plays for forcing and recovering a fumble. So still could play at that level. Now he comes to Florida. We'll see what we've got in him when he enrolls and spring ball begins. All right. That is the end of the portal cycle. So let's take a step back and look at things from the 35,000-foot view again. How do we grade this cycle, Adrian? It's a big cycle because, as Jon Sumrall said, we got to win it in year one. I don't want these 5-year nonsense plans. No, I want to win now. That's the whole point of playing and coaching. You win now today. So this cycle was a big one for him. How do you grade it?
Well, when you look at this cycle, Neil, I mean, listen, I'm convinced that unless you bring in somebody who is well-known in college football, has production, probably has a couple of awards, is a starter in the SEC, and is going to start for you and be a superstar, unless you bring in people like that, there's people in your fan base that aren't going to be happy, right? That's how they see the portal, and that's just not realistic. Oh, by the way, those players that I mentioned, those qualities that I just rattled off, yeah, you have those already in your starting lineup, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay,
We've already
those
got
are
that.
guys that you retained, and we talked about that already. So when you already have a good portion of your lineup that has starters on there, proven starters, productive starters, and we go back to last year, Neil, this was not a poorly talented team. Okay, this team had talent. It just had two major hindrances. One was at the head coaching position, and the other one was at the quarterback position. That's just being honest, man. Those two factors right there cost this team probably 3 to 4 ball games last year. So this was not a poorly talented football team. It just wasn't. Look at where some of these guys are landing at, the guys that are leaving. Some are surprising me, by the way, okay, where they're landing at Power 4 schools. Okay, and then the guys that are retained, that are coming back, that are still with the program, are talented football players. So when you're going into the portal, what are you identifying? Do you need to get starters, quality starters, or do you need to get more depth, more people for your rotation, and then mix in some starters? I think Florida hit that mix pretty good, man. I think when you look at what's coming back, probably more than 50% of your starting 22 you've identified as starters that you have on your ball club. If not, probably about 50 to 75%, to be honest with you. And then when you talk about the portal, you brought in starters from the portal, man. You brought in your quarterback, you brought in a wide receiver, you brought in probably a defensive lineman for sure, and you brought in probably 2, if not 3 people in your secondary, along with your 2 kickers that are going to be your starters. You brought in from the portal. Okay, so to me, and then you filled in your depth and your rotation with players that have production. Okay, production in college football, which is what the portal is all about, which is how Indiana just won a national championship, right? They had proven players throughout their team, okay, with plenty of snaps in there. So that's what they've brought in from the portal here. Okay, so I think they've done a great job. I mean, could it have been better? Sure. Are there players that they probably missed out on? Of course, but that's everybody. Okay, you're not going to hit on everybody. It's just like recruiting in the old days. You're not going to hit on all the players that you wanted. But all in all, I'm going to give it for the first, especially, dude, listen, man, I'm so impressed with what Caldwell, the GM, did. Because remember, Sumrall was at 2 different jobs, man. Okay, so while he was doing the whole Tulane thing in the playoffs, Sumrall was pretty much Caldwell was here in Gainesville and his staff getting things in place to attack this portal. Okay, and that's what they did, man. So I think just that alone, I'm giving a solid B+, borderline A-, but a solid B+. I think they did a really, really good job.
I think that Florida did as great of a job in this portal cycle as you realistically could have expected from a team that just went 4-8 and in fact has had 0 winning seasons since the pandemic. One winning season since the pandemic. I knew there was one in there. I forgot that Billy Napier got lucky a few games in a row at the end of 24. But 21, 22, 23, 25, 4 out of the last 5 seasons have been losing seasons. And then you fire your coach. So you have other programs being able to tell people who are considering going to Florida, hey, this place is a turnstile. You're never going to see the guy after his first couple of years. He's going to be fired because that's what's happened to the other 4 guys who went there before him. So it's not a bad recruiting pitch or not a bad, negative recruiting pitch to be able to say that to kids because it's true. So Sumrall has to come in and prove that he's different, and he has to combat the whole Lane Kiffin devastation that the fan base is feeling and the boosters are feeling. So he did that. He goes out and he gets playmakers. He gets his quarterback. I'm not sure Aaron Philo is going to be starting, but he's someone who knows Buster Faulkner's offense, so I can't get mad at that. He goes and he gets some big-time playmakers. The kid from Jacksonville State, Oya Badejo, is a monster, 6'7", 300 pounds of muscle. Love that. Gets London Montgomery and Evan Pryor at running back to back up Jaden Baugh. That's great. Cam Dooley from Kentucky, big-time safety guy. I love that. Harrison Moore coming over, the starting center from Georgia Tech, who knows all the protections and all the blocking schemes for that offense Buster Faulkner runs. I love that. I love some of the depth pieces that we got. I'm not even saying that we're going to see every single one of these guys play, but, a guy like Micah Mays coming to Florida, probably not going to see the starting lineup. That's fine. That's a good depth piece you got there. 6'2", 196. He can play, comes from Wake Forest. Again, he has some experience to speak of. I'm not mad at that. Getting DJ Coleman from Baylor, I like that pickup. But then, of course, Eric Singleton. You have a lot of guys here that you can point to and go, yeah, I see the value in that. He could start. That's a good depth piece. I feel confident when Florida has to rotate guys in and out in this position and this new guy comes in. I feel okay about this guy playing for the Florida Gators. There's a lot to feel good about with this class. And then there's just the sheer volume of guys that are coming in. So I'm happy with it. I think it's about a B+. I think it would be an A- if you'd gotten a home run of a quarterback. I don't really know that there was one out there aside from Darian Mensah now who's going through this cluster of an – I don't even know what you want to call it. Darren Heitner representing him. I guess you can just call it a legal case. It involves a restraining order. It involves him suing for his right. It is a complete mess. Go ahead and Google it if you want to learn more about it. There's probably more out there that's broken now, even since we started recording, because there's so many developments happening there. But someone like that, like a Mensah who'd played for Jon Sumrall before, someone who had familiarity with him, or if a Haynes King had another year of eligibility and he transferred over to Florida, someone like that could have pushed this up into the A range. Sam Levitt, I don't really feel like he's a star quarterback, but he could be. But maybe someone like that with college football playoff experience coming over, maybe that could have done it. But this is a very good portal haul. B+. It's fine. I'm not complaining. It could have been a little bit better, but it's overall not something that I want to complain about. All right.
Real quick, let's play a quick game. And I'm just surprising you right here. You tell me better or worse from last year. Safety room.
About the same. Sorry. Safety's better. Safety's better. Safety's better.
Cornerback room.
Yeah, it's better.
It's better. Linebackers.
Well, it's going to be better because you have the same guys there, and they're going to be a year older
of experience.
Yeah.
Right?
Easy.
So it's going to be better. Yeah. Defensive line.
I don't know. That's the I don't know.
Well, you kept Jaden Woods.
Yep.
And you're bringing back LJ. Right?
Yeah.
And you brought in those guys that you just mentioned on the D line. The only guy you really lost was Burrow. That was the only guy.
Yeah, and
I guess
gun to my head, I say better, but it's not like you're bringing back like a Cam Jackson. Correct. Although, again, Jaden Woods was really good as a freshman last year. But it's not like you're bringing back that stud that was just an unquestioned All-American.
Okay. Offensive line.
Oh God. Well, you lose an All-American, but
You lose your center in All-American.
Yeah, and then you lose another guy who had 5 years of experience. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. In Austin Barber, he did a lot of good things at Florida.
Had an underwhelming season, though. He did not have the season.
Absolutely had an underwhelming season. That's why I have to think about this one too. I will say slightly worse, but I reserve the right to change my mind after the first couple games.
I say that you replaced Sale with Troutwine.
Well, that makes it. I'll put it this way. Right now, at this point in the offseason, in late January, it's worse than it was at late January of last year. But I think by the end of the season, it will be a better unit than it was at the end of 2025.
Fair enough. Wide receiver room.
Better.
Running back room.
Better.
Quarterback room.
No idea.
I say better. From a sheer production standpoint, I don't think Philo could be any worse than the worst quarterback in the SEC. So I say better. So if I'm going off of that, and yeah, that's a drive-by shot at DJ Lagway. Yeah, that guy was awful. Worst quarterback in the SEC. And they finally took his picture down from that burger place on
They did?
They finally took it down. I imagine because they took it down the day after the national championship game. So I'm imagining that it was a contractual obligation type of thing through the end of the season, the entire season maybe. That's the only thing because they had that sucker up there. I drive by there every day, Neil. I had to see Lagway's face with his little burger saying it's as sweet and spicy as me, every single day. I had to see that picture, dude. It was getting so annoying. All right. But anyway, they finally took it down. So yeah. So based off of that, man, I can't be disappointed, man, based off of that. This guy has improved the team working 2 jobs in about a month. He has improved this team. Yeah. That's my opinion.
Yeah. I hesitate on safety a little bit just because I did it first because I wasn't 100% sure what Florida was going to get out of its returning safeties. And then you go, the whole point of this is we're doing the portal cycle editions. Yeah, no kidding, it's better. No fooling.
That was the easiest thing for me, man. The only thing you lose is Castell.
Yeah. No, of course it's just, safety room is unquestionably better.
Unquestionably. All right, go ahead. Sorry to hijack the show there.
No, you're good. You're good. You can tell it's kind of late for me if it's been a long day, but we love doing what we do, and we love talking about the Gators, and we had our notes prepped and all our talking points laid out. That threw me for a loop for 1 second, but it then hit me that, we're talking about the new guys. So let's account for that. All right, so we got our team. We got our roster set pretty much. A couple of guys maybe could, and I don't know, request a waiver, enter the portal late. Nothing would surprise me at this point. For all intents and purposes, this is the roster we're going to have in 2026. So now what, Adrian? Now you got to coach them up. Now you got to go to spring ball. You're going to do the install period. Buster Faulkner is going to install his offense. Probably not going to be 100% of what we're going to see in the fall, but it's going to be the skeleton of it. Then come summer ball, we're going to see him install all the wrinkles. We're going to see all the little gadgets get inserted here or there, the staples of the offense that we've come to love from guys like Urban Meyer and Dan Mullen as the offense kind of evolves as time goes along. That's going to start to happen in the summer, and then we're going to see our quarterback. We're going to get the answer for who QB1 is. Is it going to be Aaron Philo? Is it going to be Tremel Jones? Is it? I mean, those are the 2 options. It's not going to be anyone else, I don't think. But who's going to step up at wide receiver behind those 2 guys? We know Dallas Wilson. We know Vernell Brown. We know those guys were paid very handsomely to come back. Who steps up behind them as that next guy in line for catches, for targets, and wide receiver? All that's going to be found out. So with that said, Adrian, spring ball is not that far away. What are you looking to see come spring practice for the Florida Gators?
Low-hanging fruit, man. It's what everybody that goes to that game is going to want to be seeing. They're going to want to see how does the quarterback look, how does the offense look, and pretty much nothing else is going to matter. That's what everybody walking into that spring game is going to want to see. I mean, it is about as simple as that going into this spring for Florida. Everyone's going to want to know, what's this offense going to look like? They're going to be excited to see what does the quarterback play look like, especially this Philo kid that the offensive coordinator brought with him from Georgia Tech, and that they decided. You know that Sumrall sat down with Faulkner, Neil, and said, what do you need to run this offense? I just told these people in the press conference that I'm going to light up the scoreboard. So what do you need to do that? And Faulkner told him, I'm good with my guy from Georgia Tech, Philo. Bring him in. You don't need nobody else? Nah, I'm good with him. I'm good with that Tramel Jones kid. I like his makeup. I like some of his footage that I saw. I'm fine with them too, because they didn't pursue nobody else, Neil. They didn't pursue nobody else in the portal at the quarterback position. So that's what I'm going to want to see, man. I'm going to want to see if that was the proper decision that was made moving forward. So that's how I see it moving forward into spring ball, man. What does that quarterback position look like, and what does the offense look like in general? And you know what? I think it's about time that they get Sumrall out there to the fan base. To the best of my knowledge, Neil, has he gone out to a basketball game and they've done the formal introduction at a halftime with?
I don't think so, but I think he's been to a game or two, but I don't think he's like gone out on the court and introduced himself.
Think so. No, man. They got to do that. He's got to do that here before the basketball season ends, man. He's got to go to a basketball game. They got to do the little introduction. He's got to do the thing with the microphone telling the people how we're going to be great, and he's going to kick some booty, because that's what Signetti did. Remember?
Let's try to skip the part where he puts on a BS Southern accent.
Yeah. My family, huh? I'm here with my family. Yeah, man. That's a classic. So yeah, get him out there to the fan base. Start promoting that spring game so we could get a real good crowd. I think it's gonna be a real good crowd out there, anyways. But let's get him out to a basketball game and introduce him and his family out there. Him and his family.
Well, the reason he hasn't done that yet is because the portal cycle has been kicking him high.
I've been very busy.
Now it's over. For the most part. We don't know what other Darian Mensah cases are going to come flying out of midair, but for the most part, the portal cycle is done. So, yes, I would love to see that. I would love to see him go and just acclimate himself to the fan base, period. Like, just go to baseball games, go to some gymnastics meets, just go and get a feel for what it means to be a Gator, just period, as any Florida employee would want to do. So, would love to see that. And then, yeah, spring ball, I'm going to want to see the quarterback too, for obvious reasons. I want to see the two guys that entered the portal. We were crushed we're leaving, but then they didn't leave and came back. That's Amir Jackson. That's Jaden Woods. Florida put a lot of effort into re-recruiting those guys to come back. What do they look like? What do they do to justify that hard sell that Florida obviously made to get them back? In the case of Jaden Woods, he was homesick. He's not from around here. He's from the other part of the country in Kansas. So probably wanted to go play closer to home there. Florida got him back. How does he look now? I wonder if there was some, extra plane tickets tossed his family's way to come out and see him more in Gainesville. Maybe that was part of his deal, something. But does whatever it was that sold him on staying in Florida show up in his play, in his practice? So that would be great to see. And then, of course, Amir Jackson, a tight end that I really liked when we got him initially in the out of high school. Yeah. Then he goes and makes the one touchdown catch against Texas A&M. We don't really see anything else out of him. So obviously he was planning to leave because he thought he was going to be utilized better somewhere else. Florida does something they say something that gets him to want to come back to Florida, and now he's indeed staying with the Gators. What does he look like in the offense next year? Like you've said all last year long, the wide receivers should be the focal point of any good offense, unless you have an Aaron Hernandez or Kyle Pitts type of guy that can just, take advantage of his natural size and speed ability. But you are going to have the guys in Dallas Wilson and Vernell Brown being those features next year. So it's not going to be Amir Jackson. He's not going to be the feature of the offense. But how does he look as the tight end one next year? We know it won't be Hayden Hansen. He's off to Oklahoma. We'll see him in the swamp actually late in the year. So we're going to have a new tight end in a very different role than the tight ends at Florida were utilized last year. What does that look like? That's what I'm looking to see. So with that said, let us move along to basketball. We have a couple games to talk about with Gator basketball. We previously talked about them giving mid-major Mike another L in the O-Dome and blasting Tennessee to Kingdom Come. Now we've got some more fresh data to talk about. We've got a nice win on the road at Vandy, anchoring down the Commodores on their home floor. In that game, among other things that stuck out, Ruben Chinyelu, the center, hitting 4 free throws in a row as part of a 7-point play. Xavier Lee, who'd really been struggling throughout the course of the season, hitting a filthy step-back 3. Turned out to be the game winner. Didn't know it quite at the time, but turned out to be the winning points for Florida in that victory over the Commodores. And then, of course, coming back home to Gainesville, not playing very well, still smacking LSU anyway. Florida now sitting alone, at least as of this recording, at first place in the SEC. All right, let's start with the Vanderbilt game. A lot to talk about there. It was a great win for Florida on the road. Vandy has since kind of cratered, but at the time, that was a top 10 team that Florida went and beat. Top 10 in the AP poll, top 10 in the net rankings. Big win for Florida. What did you see in that game that you liked, Adrian?
Well, since that game, I mean, Crater's tough, man. They've lost one game since.
Well, they haven't played anyone. They didn't play anyone to start the year.
They went to Arkansas and got beat. They got run out of the gym. I get it. It was an emotional game that they lost at home, so I get it. But the Florida Vandy game, high quality, man. That's the thing that stands out to me about that ball game, dude. Both teams shot over 50% from the field. Florida at 52, Vandy at 51%. Both teams shot. Dude, Vandy went 20 of 22 at the free throw line. Florida went 25 of 30. You'd be hard-pressed to find Florida have a better free throw game than that. And at the 3, Florida went 9 for 24 at 38%. Vandy shot 8 for 22 at 36. If Florida shoots 38% in any ball game, for them to not have a runaway ball game, that tells you that the other team was on fire too, right? So that was a high-quality basketball game. Florida did their thing on the boards, man. The rebounding is like a good football team that plays defense, right? Defense travels on the road. Well, in basketball, that's rebounding. Your rebounding has to travel. When you go on the road and you're a team like Florida, Florida had 40 to Vandy's 26. That was the difference in the ball game. In a high quality ball game on the road at a place, Neil, that has always given Florida nightmares, man. That gymnasium with the weird funky setup. So it was a great ball game. It was a lot of fun to watch. A little stressful, but a lot of fun. And Florida pulled it out in some high quality basketball, man. Vandy looked good. They were missing one of their better guards, which came back to haunt them at the end of the game when is it Mills or Miles, their shooting guard, fouled out. Okay, they were left only with the point guard Tanner, and Florida was able to take advantage of it. So that was a little bit of a break there. Chinyelu, he's playing out of his mind. I know you're going to talk about it, but he was part of a 7-point trip down the floor. You don't see those too often, if not never. And guess what? Florida saw him on back-to-back ball games because they had a 7-point trip this last ball game against LSU, and Chinyelu was part of that one as well. A 7-point trip down the floor, man. So outstanding. Florida's rolling right now, playing their best basketball. And Neil, it's not necessarily the point guard play. The point guard play is better, no doubt about that. But the play of Chinyelu and the play of Isaiah Brown stepping up and being another option off the bench is also playing big for Todd Golden right now.
Well, yeah, he is one of the guards. But, you're talking about Duke Miles, by the way.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the 7-point play. Ruben Chinyelu, not a guy historically known for his free throw shooting. Hits the first one, hits the second one, hits the third one, hits the fourth one. That was one of the on the road, mind you. That was one of the most amazing things I've seen from Gator basketball in a long time. I mean, you talk about winning the national championship. You can talk about the run they had. That was all fantastic. That was euphoric, elation. Yes. In terms of just jaw-dropping, like, did I see that right? Like, that would be about the equivalent of watching Patrick Young hitting a three. Like, just not something you expect to see out of Florida. Yeah. But there he did it. And Vanderbilt fans are crying about the officiating in that game. And I'm sorry to tell you guys, the officiating was just terrible, both sides. Like, there was no consistency. There was no parameters set for what merited a foul. There was no threshold for when the whistle gets blown. No, it was just haphazard, almost like picking out of a hat or flipping a coin. Should I call a foul or like rubbing a magic 8-ball? Should I call a foul? Should I let it go? No, there is no rhyme or reason to anything. But then, yeah, the 7-point play, Vandy is up 5. They're up 1 to start the second half. They build a little bit of a lead a minute into the second half, 19 minutes to go in the game. They're up 5, starting to feel a little good about themselves. Like, all right, this first segment before the under 16 timeout, we can kind of build a lead, maybe knock Florida out of the game. Then the 7-point play comes. Chinelu hitting the 4 free throws. Thomas Houck getting the other 3 points with a 3. Thomas Houck, by the way, NBA lottery for the Florida Gators. He has been nothing short of spectacular. And I've said this from the start of the year, or at least after the first couple games. Florida's not going to have the guard play they had a year ago. They're just not. They're not going to replace Walter Clayton or Elijah Martin or Will Richard. For that matter, they're not going to replace Denzel Aberdeen. They don't have the personnel on this new roster to be able to overcome all 4 of those losses. Any one of them in isolation, sure. Denzel Aberdeen by himself, yeah, he's become a good player for Kentucky. Florida's overcome that just fine. There's no way you're going to overcome the totality of that backcourt loss. So what do you do instead? You do have your front court back from last year. You can simply lean on that front court to win you games this year. You leaned on your backcourt last year, and your front court did just enough to win games for you, but the backcourt carried you. This year, it's the exact reverse. Florida is winning games with its rebounding, with its post play, with its, I guess, whatever you want to call Thomas Houck kind of playing that 3 role where he's a hybrid sort of a backcourt, front court guy, hits some threes, but does a lot of stuff inside too. But then they're getting just enough from their backcourt. They're getting just enough shots made from Boogie Fland or Xavier Lee. And then you saw it in the end of the game. Florida's down 2. Guess what happens? Xavier Lee with that filthy step back to eventually win the game for Florida. Just a nasty crossover step back, and I think from 33 feet or so, just drained it. Florida then hits their free throws down the stretch. Vandy doesn't even get a shot off on their last possession, just dribbles it out of bounds. Florida wins the game 98-94. Now we talk about the LSU Tigers coming to the O-Dome. They are not a good team, frankly. They're 1-5 in the SEC, I think, for a good reason. Their non-conference schedule not particularly strong. Matt McMahon, of course, was the guy who faced Todd Golden in the NCAA tournament when they were at their previous schools. Matt McMahon for Murray State, Todd Golden for San Francisco. Matt McMahon won that game for Murray State, and there were some Gator fans grumbling at the time, well, why don't we hire the guy who actually won that game? Looking like a pretty good move Florida made to get the guy who lost that one stray NCAA tournament game. Florida smacking LSU 79-61. I don't think it was that close. Along the way, you have some eyesore moments. You have Florida just missing a bunch of free throws throughout the course of the game. I think they were 14 for 27. That's really bad. But again, Florida's a better rebounding team. They out-rebounded LSU 50-30, and they did more than enough to win. But I think from this game, unlike Vandy, there were a lot of things Todd Golden could look at and say, no, you got to get better at that. Adrian, what stuck out to you from this game?
Exactly what you just said, man. This was a classic letdown game, though, right? After that big road win against Vandy, the top 10 team and stuff like that. and then sandwiched in between a big rival, right? Auburn's become a big rival the last couple of years with, Bruce Pearl and what he's developed over there. His son's now in charge there. But so it was sandwiched right in there. Here comes LSU, last place team in the SEC. Classic letdown game, man. Classic letdown game. So it kind of started off that way. Florida did start off slow, but just the talent took over. The natural ability to just bludgeon these teams on the boards took over. And Shinyalu pretty much just dominated the game on the boards, under the basket, offense and defense, put on just a show there, domination. And then the free throw shooting was bad. It's no way to put it. He almost shot 50% from the free throw line. So you got to try and improve on that. But that's always been an issue with this ball club. It just is what it is. But other than that, it was a good win. Just get the win. It was comfortable. Like you said, wasn't even that close, especially once things got rolling there in the second half. And now just get ready for the Auburn game. That'll be a big one here. Saturday at home, and continue stacking up these wins and see if you can create a little distance there in the standings there with these other SEC ball clubs.
Yeah, I mean, Florida is a team that I think, again, has earned the right to kind of fall back down to earth after winning those 4 games in a row that they won, which, again, were Georgia, Tennessee, Oklahoma by $1 billion on the road, and then at Vandy. You can kind of give them some slack for coming home and then coming up with a ho-hum win by only 18 points, which, again, you're in the SEC. It's one of those things that's my boy Chris Phillips. It's one of his sayings. You respect the league, right? It's why you'll never give Florida a 99.9% chance against who's the worst team. I guess LSU or Oklahoma are probably the 2 in the SEC, but it's why you'll never give Florida a 99.9% chance to win one of these games, because you respect the league, because they're talented enough that they could come and get you if you're not playing your best ball. But Florida found a way to win this game with its B or even probably its C or C minus game. That's all you can do. You play the opponent in front of you, you score more points than them, you move on to the next game. Florida did that. They are 5-1 now.
Tommy H probably had his worst game of the year. He had 7 points and 3 rebounds. Okay, so you had your potential SEC player of the year, SEC first teamer, potential All-American, have only 7 points and 3 rebounds, and you still win by almost 20 points. Tells you a little something about where you're at. And shout out real quick, Urban Clavzar, man. Urban with the 5 threes, man. That was huge. He was nailing them. He was a big part of that 7-point trip down the floor in this game. Was his 3 that was just a beautiful 3. So yeah, man, good game. Just get the win, get out of there. This was an easy game to lay an egg and have LSU come in here and upset you in a letdown game. Could have happened easily, and instead Florida won by 19.
People are going to roll their eyes when I say this, and for those people, that's just too damn bad. This is exactly the kind of game that Mike White would lose. You come back home after the big road win. You're on top of the world. You come back home and you lay a big fat egg, because that's what Mike White did for 7 years. Even the Elite 8 year, you had some bad home losses in that year. You lost to a bad Vandy team at home that year. Like, it happened at least twice, if not 3 times a year. Mike White is now, of course, at Georgia. Todd Golden has now gone 9-0 in the O-Dome this year. Got to shout him out for that. And you face some decent teams. Mike White's Georgia team isn't bad. Tennessee certainly isn't bad this year. They're projected to be a 5 or a 6 sort of seed. FSU is not what we thought they were going to be after the first couple games, but nonetheless, that's a power conference team. There have been chances for those letdown games in the O-Dome. Hasn't happened. Also, I mean, savvy Gator basketball fans and those with good memories will remember even Billy Donovan I mean, not to just, I mean, you know, I like throwing Mid-Major Mike under the bus, but even Billy Donovan would lose games to like Richmond and South Alabama and Jacksonville and I think Central Florida once. Like those losses happened under the greatest coach we've ever had, Billy Donovan. Todd Golden's not letting that happen. This team is coming home as seeing the business opportunity in front of them and taking advantage of it, getting the win. And they're having fun as they do it. That's the last thing I wanted to talk about with Gator basketball before we move on to our final sport of the night. But we saw in that Vanderbilt game, those Vandy fans were talking some kind of mess. I don't know what it was, but they were saying something. And Florida players had heard enough of it because after the game, the second the clock hit 0, Thomas Houck goes right up to the Vandy students. He points at them like I'm pointing at the hammer. He points at them, and then he does their V thing, and he flips it upside down. That doesn't happen for no reason. So this team, and then of course the entire Gator team goes and starts doing the Gator chomp. Yeah, they were chomping. Ruben Chindulu was just flexing. You had I think Alex Condon doing the V and then like a thumbs down at them.
Boogie give the thumbs down.
Yeah, this team is having fun with themselves, which is something that I wasn't sure was the case back in the days of November, December when they were losing to TCU. Like this team seems to be different now. And then the game last night or 2 nights ago when you guys were listening to this, you have Boogie Fland going to save a ball, jumps into the stands, and he grabs a handful of popcorn from a fan in the first couple of seats. That was one of the funniest things I've seen this year.
That's good.
That was hilarious.
Good, you got to have fun, man. You got to have fun playing this. I mean, these are kids playing a kid's game. They got to have fun. They're in college, and that's how you play loose, man. And I think Boogie plays better when he's loose. I found it funny how sometimes, what's his name, Xavier Lee sometimes gets a little bit too loose with that basketball.
Yeah.
Todd yanked him after a turnover. He yanked him and sat him down for about 8 minutes, man. And that's when Urban started hitting a couple threes, so he just left him out there for a little bit. But that's good, man. That gives Todd the ability to do that, right? When Urban's playing the way he's playing, when Isaiah Brown's coming off the bench and giving you quality minutes, Neil, he's not coming in there just giving you some like scrub couple of minutes. He's having impacts on the game, man. Okay, so when these two guys are doing that, when Xavier gets a little bit crazy with that basketball, Todd has the ability to sit him down and calm him down, man. And that's all part of the game, man. That's what Todd does good, real good, man. He uses his bench for stuff like that. So that's all up and up right there.
The best part of the SEC season for sure for me so far was the replay of Xavier, the reprise of Xavier Lee, of Boogie Fland in the locker room with the popcorn. He had a whole bucket of it this time at his locker in the post game, and he started munching on it. And in between bites, like his mouth is full, he goes, "Gator boy, stay hot." He wasn't here last year. Boogie Fland was not part of that team, remember? So he is now a new member of this roster, a new member of this program that's adopting that phrase. And indeed, the Gator boys are getting hot now. 5 wins in a row. They're starting to feel it now.
That's an iconic phrase, Neil. Gator boys stay hot is iconic now, man.
But you can't use it. You can't use it unless you've really, really earned it. Like that phrase went dead for 18 years between the last natty and this natty. And think about it, Florida's made a Final Four since then. The Gators made 4 straight Elite Eights in between then and now. Phrase was dead until last year. So
when you think about it, the Patrick Young teams never used that.
Nope,
and they made a huge run. They were undefeated in the SEC.
Yep.
And they never used the Gator boys stay hot. So it kind of was dormant. And it was brought back to life last year. So that was nice.
That's what I mean. Nice. Yeah, it's back now with this 2025-2016. All right.
By the way, Xavier Lee, he should have stayed with 99, don't you think?
Yeah, that was another storyline. The Gators, someone forgot the uniform, so you had a couple of guys wearing alternate numbers at Vandy. Xavier Lee wearing 99, Boogie Fland I think wearing 33. So. Okay, whatever, fun stuff. Also, of course, the haircut line, right? The guys cutting their dreads, Boogie Fland with the same barber that Walter Clayton used a year ago, cutting off the dreads, playing a lot better now, right? There's clearly causation there. So Gator boys stay hot, as they say, and they are hot now with 5 SEC wins in a row. All right, Adrian, Gator baseball starting soon too. That's going to be fun to talk about in a lot more detail as things draw even closer. Gator Diamond Pod, of course, entering its first full season under the All Kinds of Weather umbrella. Give us a couple of things to look forward to with you and Chris covering Gator baseball in 2026. What kinds of fun shows and topics are we looking forward to?
There's Sully right there, man. Quick Gator Diamond Pod tease. Well, real quick, look, a lot of the preseason polls have already started to come out. Florida is being preseason ranked. Now, baseball has like about 20 of them, guys, all right? We know that football really only has a couple preseason polls that matter. Baseball has like about 10 to 20 of them, dude. It's crazy. But a handful that have come out already have Florida anywhere from like 11, 12 to 19, 20 around there in that range. A lot of it stems from the predictions for this year's Gator team. There's a lot of volatility in the predictions because of the way that Florida's offseason went. You know, there was some turmoil there with Sully with the leave of absence, with losing Chuck Girolamo to Tennessee. You know, so that kind of instability there, period of about a month, really, a month and a half, causes some volatility in the predictions in the college baseball world. So that's where that's coming from. But it's a great opportunity for Florida to just show that, hey, man, this train just keeps on rolling. You know, Sully's back. The Gators are the Gator baseball team. It's been one of the most dominant programs in college baseball for the last 15, 20 years. And Omaha is always the destination with Sully at the helm. They're going to start scrimmages. If you live in Gainesville, live close by, make sure you could get out to the ballpark. They have the schedule. They posted on their X account, Florida Gator Baseball. I believe it's the X account. But you could find it. We also posted on Gator Diamond Pod also. And we are at the practices. We'll have video of the scrimmages. We'll have updates from the scrimmages starting on Friday. They started practices. Today's Wednesday, right, Neil? They started practices late last week. Just practices, no scrimmages. You know, after the pitchers had all the holidays off and all that, you want to give them a little time to get their arms revved up, build up a little bit before you put them in a scrimmage to start throwing innings, right? So they'll start on Friday. But I've been out there to see them have practice about 2 or 3 times. You know, just take infield, outfield defense, batting practice. Looking good. Looking good. So looking forward to seeing what the pitchers look like on the mound here, starting the scrimmages. And like I said, we'll have it all at Gator Diamond Pod. So look up there, but better yet, go to the ballpark, man. Go to the ballpark, and especially this weekend. It's supposed to be a really nice weekend here in Gainesville. I believe the scrimmages are midday.
No ice storm? You're not getting the ice storm?
No, we're not getting no ice storm here in Gainesville, man. It's nice. It was supposed to be that cold this weekend, to be honest with you. Nice. It was cold the last couple of days. But, yeah, get out there. I think 11:45, 12 o'clock scrimmages, usually about 4 or 5 innings. They don't go a full 9, about 4 or 5 innings, but you catch a little baseball. And looking forward to it, man. Looking forward to you checking us out.
This is your show. I'm going to talk a little bit about baseball this year, but I'm mostly just going to leave it to Adrian and Chris because that's why I got them. They do such a great job. Why would I dare mess with it? But we got to get Liam Peterson to be what we thought he was going to be this year. We've got to get Peterson to that level where, I mean, we got to get him to be what Aiden King is because that's frankly what we thought he was going to be. Obviously, they're different pitchers, but we thought that they were going to be equally as productive, equally as reliable as each other, and it hasn't happened. So Peterson's capable of it. He just hasn't done it consistently.
The big games in the biggest of stages is where Liam has struggled. And if you ask him, he'll probably tell you the same thing. Yeah. And with him, it's right here. It's just mental. It's nothing physical. It's all between the ears. Gets that taken care of. Sky's the limit.
That's what baseball is, though. I mean, at the SEC level, everyone's talented. Everyone can throw the ball 150 miles an hour or hit one 500 feet, right? I mean, aside from guys like Cags, those guys are unicorns. Below him, everyone else is pretty equal talent-wise. It's just all mental. So will Florida produce a better season than they produced a year ago? I think that is a question that's going to be answered by watching Gator Diamond Pod, which you can catch right here on the All Kinds of Weather Forecast YouTube channel and podcast platforms as well, wherever you get your favorite podcast. The All Kinds of Weather Forecast is available there, and that's where you'll get Adrian and Chris talking Gator baseball and some softball. And last thing before we wrap up, just want to shout out Ben Shelton. Again, we are the Everything School. Ben Shelton carrying that Gator flag all the way to Australia, where he's in the Australian Open, made it to the semifinals a year ago. The 128-man draw made it all the way to the Final Four there. Looking to replicate that run this year. Already won his first-round match over Hugo Humbert from France. Now faces Dane Sweeney of Australia, the hometown kid. So Shelton's going to have a bit of a road atmosphere there. He's done well there before. And funny enough, he credits the SEC for helping him develop that mental toughness to go and win those road matches. Because when he played for Florida for 2 years, he would go on the road to Ole Miss, to Georgia, to Texas A&M with all the frat boys in those schools yelling whatever at him. So he's able to deal with those Australian crowds rooting for his Australian opponent these days. And he has explicitly said, thank you, Ole Miss Rebels. Thank you, Georgia Bulldogs fans. Thank you, Texas A&M frat boys, for helping get me ready for moments like this. So he is a Gator, and he's proud of – yeah, go ahead. You got a question.
You know, when he was here, he was a freshman when they won the national championship, right?
Yep.
You know that he was – I believe – quote me, I'm probably wrong by one or two, but I believe it was like number 5.
He was fifth singles.
Signals. He
rotated between 5th and 6th singles throughout the year. Yeah.
That's a cheat code, bro.
6.
Talk about a cheat code to have that dude as your number 5 or 6 signals.
Well, he wasn't. So I will say Ben Shelton was on a rocket ship. He was on a meteoric rise. Yeah. He was not. He was clearly not the best or second or third best on that team. And that team was stacked. Guys like Sam Riffis, Duarte Vale, Andre Andrade, Josh Goodger played sort of 5 or 6 that year. But, yeah, he was the number 5 singles player for most of that year, and he clinched that national championship. And since he's done nothing but just ascend, his rise has been a vertical one. It's been amazing to watch. And he still loves his Gators. He'll still do the Gator chomp every now and then after a win. Someone with a Florida hat in the crowd. So he's proud of his Gator roots, and he's worth watching. Plays a little bit later tonight. Probably the match will be over by the time this airs. But thank you guys for watching. You can always like, subscribe, leave a comment, all that good stuff. Tell your friends. All that stuff helps us bring you more great Gators content. We'll be talking more basketball. We'll be talking more baseball, of course, with Gator Diamond Pod coming up soon. In all kinds of weather forecasts, of course, available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as here on YouTube. Until next time, Adrian Perez, Neil Shulman, thank you guys for watching and or listening. Go Gators. Gator boys, stay hot.
Stay hot.